going to let you do the intro, Sarah.
Let's rephrase that. Helen, I'm going to do the intro this time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
I'm Helen.
And we have a lot to talk about today. A lot of WSL and a lot of Champions League. And a lot of around the world.
Can you believe we're on episode 9?
No, I really can't. I don't have anything else to add.
Wow. Honestly, 9 episodes in and the words are flowing. It's literally back and forth without barely a breath in between.
We're just getting more succinct. That's all it is. Also, 9 episodes in, I have to say, 9 episodes in, and sugar before I got on with you.
Oh,
so.
for God's sake. I swear we spend most of the episodes talking about your blood sugar levels.
Yeah, that's probably a problem.
I think that we are going to have to dive straight into the action because it was a wild week, because we haven't just got obviously WSL and league games. We've also got European Champions League games and another few bits and bobs to talk about. So should we do this?
So we're going to talk about Brighton-Tottenham and we're going to talk about City-Everton. Let's talk about Brighton versus Tottenham first. So this was a middle-of-the-table clash. So much fun. We were excited for this because Brighton were sitting in 7th with 15 points and Tottenham were sitting just below them in 8th, sitting 3 points behind, but they did have 2 games in hand. At the end of the day, Brighton came away with a 2-0 victory. However, this scoreline was really not indicative of how the game played out. Tottenham controlled the majority of this game possession-wise. When you look at the stats, they had 60% of possession. They had 9 corners, which means they also had quite a few opportunities, chances on goal. Generally, the flow of the game was that it was in Tottenham's control. They were finding a bunch of balls over the top, a lot of through balls to their forwards. They just really weren't able to capitalize. They had 10 shots, but only 1 was on target. And when you look at that, it really does just solidify that narrative of they had control of the ball. They were able to find holes in Brighton's defense, but they weren't able to connect in that final third enough to turn these opportunities into true chances on goal.
And obviously you watched this game, but from my side, going into this game, I think that one of the things that you'd be saying if you were a Tottenham manager or a Tottenham player is this Brighton team do leak goals. They've had 30 goals conceded this season. So you'd be going into that game going, we can score goals. So it's kind of even more shocking, I guess, that they weren't able to score those goals.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, while it's shocking that they weren't able to score those goals, what I think is more important when you say that is looking at their defense. Because having watched Tottenham all season, their defense has been a real issue for the entire season. Obviously, Alana Kennedy was playing center back. Now she was moved to the 6, and they're trying to work out their back line, and it hasn't been successful. Along those lines, Brighton were able to capitalize. Brighton had 2 goals that were almost like surprising in the run of play. It was like Tottenham had possession and were controlling the game, and then all of a sudden, Brighton found themselves in their attacking third. And they were just 2 moments where Tottenham left players with too much space in front of the goal and Brighton capitalized. And it was as simple as that. So as much as it was Tottenham and their defense being unorganized and slipping up, Brighton was able to capitalize on that as well.
I've got a question for you and I want the pure, honest answer.
Ooh, I love today, this. This is getting interesting, juicy, a little gossip here.
And my question for you is, obviously, on a Sunday, we have to make a decision as women's football fans. And if you don't support a specific team, you've just got to choose a game from across the selection of games. And you chose to watch this game. It was you that said to me, I think I'm going to watch it. Middle of the table clash. Looks like it's probably going to be one of the most interesting. Are you glad that you chose this game? Like, what did you see in it that kind of made you excited? And also, do you think there is a way that any of those 2 teams, Brighton or Tottenham, can start to break into that sort of top 5?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because watching this game is obviously very different from watching a Chelsea game, from watching a City game. And I know that this might piss some people off, but the reality is that it's better soccer being played by Chelsea. It's better soccer being played by Man City. So watching this game, I am watching, frankly, worse soccer. However, the team's so evenly matched up that it becomes a good game. You can have a good game and have it not be like pretty soccer.
Yeah.
So to answer the question of, am I happy that I watched? Yeah, I'm happy that I watched. Were there moments where I was frustrated by some of the soccer I was watching? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just really speaks to the quality of play from the top of the table to the bottom of the table. And kind of how I see the table right now is that you've got your very, very top teams, which unfortunately I have to say are really only Chelsea and City. And they're kind of in a league of their own. And then you've got like the middle or the top of the middle. I'm going to break it down even more. I'm going to say that there's a top of the table. There's Chelsea and City. And then there's what I'm going to call the bottom of the top. So these teams are playing really good soccer, but they can't quite compete with the top. And that's United and Arsenal. And then we've got what I'm going to call the middle of the pack. And the middle of the pack, I'm going to separate into contenders and non-contenders. So you've got Everton and Reading next. And they, in my opinion, are a different type of middle of the table team than a Brighton and a Tottenham, who I just saw play. So these are all very middle of the table teams. Everton's in 5th, Reading's in 6th, Brighton's in 7th, Tottenham's in 8th. But Everton and Reading, based on the day that they come out, they can beat Chelsea. They can beat City. I don't see Tottenham or Brighton really being able to do that.
I think you're completely right. And what it does is it creates like one clash a season, which is really tight. So i.e. Chelsea versus Man City, Man United versus Arsenal, Everton versus Reading. And I'd love to see it where you've got 4 or 5 fixtures for one team that's like super exciting and really tight. I actually spoke to a Reading fan for our Patreon episode last week, I think it was. And we were talking to the Reading fans group. And they were saying, we think we can get into the top 3. We are the only club that doesn't have a Premier League men's club associated to us in that sort of mix of playing it at the top of the WSL. And we genuinely really think that the club has the women's team at the sort of front and centre of what they're doing. So actually there is the possibility that we can kind of reach to those dizzy heights at the top of the WSL. But you're right, I think it's at the moment, 1st and 2nd, fighting it out. 3rd and 4th fighting it out, and 5th and 6th fighting it out in a lot of ways. And I guess the question on everybody's lips is, how do you go from being a 3rd or 4th going for 1st or 2nd and going from 5th or 6th to go for 3rd or 4th, you know? And what does that look like? Because there are massive transitions in between those clubs, I would say. I
don't want the answer to be just go buy players, but quite frankly, at a certain point, the investment has to be also in the players. City just went out and they're trying to buy their championship.
Ooh. Sorry, Helen. Are you trying to wind me up tonight?
I mean, it's the honest truth. You look at the dispersal of talent throughout the league, and it's so lopsided.
It's so lopsided.
And that you can't have an even table with talent dispersal like so lopsided like it is. United was able to compete how they were competing, number 1, because they got Tobin Heath and Kristen Press. And number 2, they were only able to compete until a certain point. Like, at a certain point, they had to fall off from the top of the table because they didn't have the talent Chelsea had. They didn't have the deep bench that City had. And while I don't want to say that because I fully believe that United as a team who plays good soccer can eventually go and beat them, it's really hard right now.
I think Everton and Reading, as 2 clubs in the WSL, can attract star power, and not just star power, but star quality. That doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, Megan Rapinoe, but real top-notch, top of the European divisions players, because there are loads of women's players at elite level and not enough clubs to take them in. And this league and division in the WSL are paying full salaries. So I think that you can attract those big names. And my argument to you would be, Arsenal had those names. The only major difference for me between Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal is facilities, forward growth and forward movement from the club perspective, and that aspect of things. Like, Arsenal haven't invested in their club in a long time.
Yeah, you're totally right about that.
They've got the best striker in the world.
Yeah. But Arsenal has that for their starting 11, and then they aren't as deep as City and Chelsea.
Yeah. Their investment in other players is not there, is it?
No, it's not.
And I'd argue that Everton are on the cusp of that in terms of, like, they're bringing Hayley Raso off the bench. This is top players that they've got in their armoury. and they're bringing them off the bench. I think it comes down to facilities and quality of treatment of the players that takes you from elite to like ultra elite. And when you look at like the likes of Manchester City, yes, they have invested. Don't get me wrong. They're bringing in top quality players. But Jesus, I see the stadium. It's literally out the window of my bedroom. I can see the academy, and it's beautiful. It's like state of the art, the facilities they have.
Yes, I totally agree. But I also think it's more than that. Tottenham has great state of the art facilities for their women, and they're still sitting where they are.
True.
I think that there's a lot of factors. I think that it was really great for somebody like Alex Morgan to go to Tottenham, because maybe also it's an appeal of a brand name, to be totally honest. Like, you're looking confused. Do you want me to explain that more?
No. What I was going to say was, I think that you're right, because the Alex Morgan intro was what actually sparked Spurs to bring the women into their training camp, because there was so much attention surrounding Alex Morgan. And they brought in Gareth Bale at the same time, which was a similar sort of signing in that he kind of had lost that elite star quality level of like playing for Real Madrid, but he still had the name that was getting on the back of the jerseys. People would buy the jerseys. Alex Morgan comes in and everybody's looking at Spurs. And it was then that they kind of, I think personally, potentially a catalyst for them going, let's bring the women into the men's facilities, which you just make a really, really good point. And maybe we'll see Spurs start to climb up the WSL in the years to come as those players start to get that more elite treatment,
I really hope so. I mean, just to finish this off, if I was a player, I would be most excited to go to, United, because I'd want to play for Casey Stoney.
Oh, God. You'd be asking him for fashion tips.
I would be really excited to go to an Everton or go to a Reading for the reasons that we're talking about right now. They're in the middle of the table, but they're on the top end of that split where they're on the rise, and with a couple little shifts, they are really going to be competing for the top spot in this league. And that's really exciting to be a part of.
On to City versus Everton, which kind of is a really good little segue, right? Because we've just been talking about top of the top of the top, and then the guys that are on the cusp maybe of making
and how Everton and Reading can potentially challenge these teams at the top. But their issue seems to be a week-to-week basis where we don't know which team is going to come out. Is it going to be the Everton that can challenge, or is it going to be the Everton that struggles against a bottom of the table team? Because we've seen both of them.
And you're spot on. Today was a challenge day. It was a day where they really frustrated Manchester City, and City managed to scrape a 1-0 win. It was good to see Mewis back in action, and a lot came through her today. She missed an open goal early in the first half that deflected off the wall. She just knocked it wide. She was back in action for a whole 68 minutes before being replaced by her friend Rose Lavelle. Maybe the stars are all aligning finally, and Rose maybe played in her favoured sort of attacking midfield position. That was quite cool to see, right?
I'm always happy when I see Rose Lavelle playing in position in City, because it never happens.
And so today everyone was like, whoa, she's coming on in the position she wants to play. We might actually see her playing well. This is crazy. Overall, City didn't have a very clinical performance. I think anybody in a Man City shirt would agree with me. And I do think that's being kind, because I am a closeted City fan.
Can you just admit it? Can we just drop the word closeted and can you just say that sentence without the word closeted?
I can't do it. Everton did really do well to frustrate them. They played one up front, Valerie Govan, who's obviously electric, and they played 5 in their back line. But I did feel a little bit like City faced this week in, week out, with oppositions coming in with, a block 5, a block 4, one player up front. And City should be on it enough to break that down easily. In the first half, a lot was played down that right-hand channel for Chloe Kelly. But the strike force just weren't on form. Ellen White was putting them wide. Hemp was a little bit off the mark today, and Caroline Weir, she just wasn't quite on the form that she was, creating those passes over the top, and obviously her distance shots are pretty incredible as well, and she just wasn't really able to sort of get the shots off. There were some good passages of play from Everton, which I don't think have been highlighted in the coverage that you'll see on the BBC or anything like that, or in the stats. They had 36% possession, but it's presented as if Manchester City were completely dominant, and I just don't think it was quite that simple, to be honest.
What did you see well from Everton?
So Izzy Christiansen in particular, who's a fantastic midfielder and surely has to be getting a more of a look in for the England squad for the next Euros.
Which she's been in and out of her whole career.
So she went off to Lyon, and I think it was probably the biggest mistake of her career, ironically, because she didn't really get much game time, and then everybody kind of forgot she existed. But she was a massive force in the 2015 World Cup. And you can see as well, the Man City girls respect her because she's so well known, obviously, within the England setup and all that sort of stuff. I really hope that she does get more of a chance. She played really well today. Everton's big struggle was they're trying to get up the pitch as much as possible. But when you're playing a 5-4-1, it's really hard to move the entire squad up the pitch when you've been defending quite a lot.
That's a very defensive formation, and you're essentially asking for a counterattack goal if you play a 5-4-1. And so that statistic of possession really makes sense because they decided beforehand that they were going to sit back and try to stop City's attack and hope for the counter, which I understand because they have the forwards to do that. It just didn't work out for them.
So Everton were trying as much as possible to get the ball into the centre of the pitch. They were able to get corners. They created set pieces. But when you're creating set pieces against City, good luck. They've got such height in that squad. You've got the Tower of Terror.
Do you know what it really is?
The Tower of Power. I literally am so embarrassed that I said that and then kept it in the show anyway.
I'm sure she would have appreciated it.
But you've got such height in that team, such strength in the air that, the corners weren't really creating much. I just want to say, sort of caveat, side note, big fan of Lucy Graham. Really consistent for Everton over the last 2 years. She covered a lot of blades of grass in the Everton-Man City game, and she was really up and down that line, back and forth. In the end, it came down to a wonder strike from Kira Walsh, low, powerful, edge of the area, unmarked, and she catches a flat-footed Sandy McIver, slightly off guard. Low and hard ball flies into the bottom left-hand corner, and it was kind of a moment from nothing. It was the 81st minute, thought this game's going to come to 0-0. That's the way it looked like it was going, and it wasn't a performance of a league-winning team, but I think what I've taken away from it, and this is my closeted Cityness coming out again, is when you're picking up 3 points and you manage to just scrape yourselves over the line, it kind of is a league-winning team. Like, that's what league-winning teams have to do sometimes.
I want to disagree with you because I feel like you're just giving City credit because you want to, but I agree in the way that sometimes to win a title, you got to get a little lucky and you got to just pull them out even when you haven't been playing well. And Everton clearly challenged really well this game, and City was able to pull through. Finding goals against a back five is not easy, and they were able to do that.
The title challenge, I guess, is still on. Chelsea had a much more convincing win against West Ham, 2-0. It did end up being a little bit of a tricky fixture. Emma Hayes probably wouldn't have thought it was going to be as hard as that, but they brushed them aside in the end, meaning they are top of the WSL, 2 points between them and Manchester City in second place.
Yeah, not much movement in the table this week based on the scorelines. Manchester United beat Aston Villa 3-0. Birmingham City lost to Arsenal 4-0. It was really nice to see that's 2 weekends in a row or 2 games in a row where Arsenal has looked like the old Arsenal of sorts, being able to really put goals away. So it's nice to see that.
Are you ready to go?
I'm really ready to go around the
world. Oh.
I'm really ready to go around the world because we have been talking about PSG versus Lyon for 9 episodes now. And this is the week I get to say, this weekend is PSG versus Lyon.
Yeah! What are we going to talk about after they've played that fixture? We're just going to that's it. The end of the series, done.
We're just going to talk about the fixture.
I feel like next week, no matter what the result is, we've got to make that our game of the week because I think that's the title game. I think if PSG win that, they've won the title. And that will be massive in world women's football, guys. So 13th of March, we're still talking about it. It's coming. It's coming.
Book your calendars. 13th of March is Saturday, everybody. So Saturday, cancel your plans. Don't make plans. You will be inside watching PSG versus Lyon.
Nobody has plans. It's lockdown.
That's true. Do you want to kick it off, Helen?
Let's do it. It's a big game in Italy today. First place Juventus took on second place Milan in the Serie A. Before today, Juve made it 14 out of 14 and Milan weren't far behind with 13 wins and 1 loss. But today, Juventus made it 15 wins out of 15 with a staggering 4-0 win over Milan in second place. 4 goals, 5 shots on target, only 47% possession, clinical as anything. We love, love, love to see goals scored by different players. And in this game, all 4 goals were scored by different goal scorers. Milan was simply outclassed. Juventus hit them on the counter time and time again, and Milan struggled to create opportunities in that attack. In third place, Sassuolo. You know I love talking about Sassuolo. They continue to scrape through with a few more 1-0 wins. Today it was against Fiorentina, who sit in 5th place. A huge win that just about keeps them in contention for a Champions League spot.
After a midweek loss against Chelsea, which we'll come to in a minute, Atletico Madrid were back to winning ways with a 4-0 battering of Real Betis. Real Madrid were also back to winning ways and leapfrogged their neighbors with a 4-1 win against Espanyol. Does any of it really matter, though, because Barcelona continued to destroy absolutely everybody around them. We highlight them every week, and there is a reason for that. 18 wins out of 18 games played, a goal difference of 87, with only 3 goals conceded all season. They also have 3 games in hand on the other top 4 teams. No one is stopping them this season, and as Helen has called out 2 weeks in a row, she thinks that they're going to win the Champions League.
The playoff draw has now been called for Euro 2022 with Ukraine meeting Northern Ireland. That's a big fixture. Go on, Northern Ireland! Portugal meeting Russia and Czech Republic meeting Switzerland in a crucial playoff taking place in April. Good luck to all of those teams involved. Can't wait for the Euros next year.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
So you recorded a Patreon this week.
I did. We mentioned last week that I was very frustrated with the Canadian national team and their performance in the She Believes Cup. So I decided to do some digging. And I spoke to Caitlin, who is a hardcore Canadian national team fan. And we had a great conversation. That Patreon episode is dropping this Thursday. So if you were also curious about the Canadian national team, where they're headed, what's going on over there, have a listen.
So yesterday, but for us tomorrow, Bristol City are playing Reading. Unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen. We could predict.
That might be fun, actually.
Oh, I'm nervous.
If we want to both look like maybe really, really smart or really, really stupid, depending on how the result goes.
It's hard because Bristol City have been playing well recently, despite some of those score lines. Reading have been a bit up and down. What team are we going to see tomorrow or yesterday? So this game will have massive bottom of the table implications, because if Bristol City do win, they'll sit then above West Ham by 1 point. So West Ham fans will be watching this with, one eye on that score.
And every game is very important. West Ham and Bristol City don't have any more head-to-head matchups. If West Ham drop this week and Bristol City takes the 3 points, or even 1 point, frankly, they're going to be watching each other very closely.
And let's be totally honest, Bristol City want to win this Reading game because then they meet Chelsea and Man City. And it's going to be really hard to grab any points from that. It will be a huge shock, wouldn't it?
Yep, I think that's really important to highlight that Bristol City heads into their next 2 weeks with Chelsea and Man City on the docket. So if they're going to be grabbing points anytime soon, now would be the time to do so.
I'm going 1-0 Bristol City.
Ooh.
Grabbing it in the 73rd minute.
For the sake of opposition, I'll say Reading, but I think that there's going to be quite a few goals. I think it'll be 3-2.
Whew! I can't wait. I actually think this is going to be a mint game. Let's go over to the Champions League. This was probably one of the best Champions League games that I've seen in a long time. The Chelsea versus Atletico Madrid. And the Chelsea fans out there will be like, finally, you're talking about us. We've been waiting this entire episode for you to mention it.
We don't spend enough time on Chelsea or City or any of these top of the table teams. We need to talk about them more. In all seriousness, this was a game I was very much looking forward to. Atletico Madrid has been playing really well in the Spanish league, and Chelsea is obviously top of the table. So this clash was something I was truly looking forward to.
really big disappointment over here in the USA that the Champions League wasn't being even streamed on a laptop, let alone being on TV. CBS has the rights to it and they weren't streaming it. So really, really disappointing, to be honest. Just have to get that out there before we dive into the game.
I just think it's important on that as fans, obviously we have a number of listeners now, reach out to us if you do have links, because we can share them throughout the community. And the most important thing is that we get everybody watching the game. So if you do manage to find links, do send them to us, because then people can inbox us and we can share them across the community.
Yeah, and we do get people reaching out to us asking how they can watch in wherever location they are. So please do send us the links and we get to share them out more broadly.
Love that. Yes, please. 2-0, mate. What did you make of it?
Absolutely wild. Chelsea played with 10 players for about 80 of the 90 minutes. And no matter how you feel about Chelsea as a team, you have to just take a moment and sit back and say, wow, there is just so much fight in them. There's so much grit and determination.
On what you've just said, just to quote Emma Hayes, I'm so proud of them. The leadership in my group is unbelievable. I don't know how many teams could go down to 10 against Atletico and do what we did. I don't think it's about resilience, because we already have that. It's about discipline. We were brilliant.
Absolutely. And I love what she said, that it's not just resilience, it's discipline, because it was. To defend with 10, to be able to control the ball and possess the ball with 10, you have to be even more disciplined than you were in your formation with 11 players, because there's that much more room for error. So the discipline that they showed was absolutely outstanding.
So Sophie Ingle is obviously given a red card. A lot of people online are talking about double jeopardy and the fact that should she be given a red card if they're given a penalty as well. A lot of people are saying it didn't warrant a red card. And obviously, if you give a red card for a penalty incident, it has to be a red card standalone plus the penalty, if that makes sense. So do you believe it was a standalone red card, like if it was anywhere else on the pitch?
Absolutely, because she was very, very clearly the last defender. And if the Atletico Madrid player who was running with the ball hadn't been fouled in that situation, she would have had one-on-one with the goalie opportunity on net. So Ingle, as the last defender, fouling her from behind like that, that is a red card. Because it happened in the box, that's a penalty.
I think what it does, let's say it's a classic game between two really equally matched teams, and that happens early on in the game like it did at 11th minute with Sophie Ingle. No, I'm sorry. I can't even let you. I don't even want to let you finish this.
Football's about entertainment, and it just ruins the entertainment of the game.
No.
Well, we are always going to disagree on this because you're 1-0 down in a game. So
but your calls can't depend on the entertainment value for the random person sitting at home on her couch watching this. Like, that is not it. And that is never anything referees are taught, nor it should ever be anything referees are taught. At the end of the day, this is a soccer game. That was a foul. That was a red card. It was a penalty. I do not know. I'm sorry that
we were raised
soccer
on
has been
because...
No. Let me finish my rant. I am sorry that soccer has become so capitalistic in England that it is now all about the entertainment value. But this is a soccer game, and it is played by the rules, and the rules cannot be dictated by the entertainment value. Like, that is not a thing. End of discussion.
For anybody on the UK European side of the water right now, shaking their heads drastically.
Come at me.
All I would say is that in the 1960s and the 1970s, referees wouldn't give yellow cards early on in the game because they were like, oh, this will just ruin the flow of the game. Referees will avoid giving decisions that will change the perspective of the game to keep the entertainment level high, because at the end of the day, that's the whole reason they're there. So that was happening in the 60s and 70s. That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say...
Hold on. First of all, that's very different than what we're talking about, because you're talking about yellow cards early on in the game. That's very different than a red card on the last defender in the box.
But the punishment for Chelsea should be going 1-0 down if Atletico could finish a penalty, but we'll get onto that. Punishment should be that you're going 1-0 down in the 11th minute and your midfielder, your key midfielder, has a yellow card to her name. You've just got a 10-year prison sentence. You're giving them a 55-year prison sentence and the game's over.
In this situation, there was a last defender who fouled somebody from behind as the last defender. That is a red card. The good news is we've argued about this for so long that the whole argument can't go in the show because it's too long.
What we'll do is we'll put our points into a succinct argument. I would say, if I was Mr. Lawmaker, a red card is a dangerous challenge that impedes a player, potentially causing damage to them, injury, broken leg, muscle injury, whatever else, studs up, those sort of things. Something that could hurt a player. And if you are taking a player down in the box, then your punishment is a yellow card and it's a penalty.
Okay, here's what I have to say. A red card, yes, dangerous plays included, although there's obviously differences between which ones are given yellows and which ones are given reds. But a red card is also encompassing of game-altering fouls that are made, which means that if you are the last defender and you do make a foul that alters what would have been the outcome of that play, that is a red card. We made our succinct points. We might disagree, but the reality of what happened is Engel got a red card. I think it was deserved. Just had to throw that in there. Atletico gets a penalty, and we're moving into what I really want to talk about, which is Berger, who not only saved this penalty, but also saved a second penalty later in the game. Absolutely incredible. I want to make sure I give her credit up front for the saves that she made because it is no small feat to stop a penalty. That's incredible. She's MVP of this game. She's part of the reason Chelsea won this game, a huge reason Chelsea won this game.
Totally agree.
I also do want to say the penalties taken from Atletico were not quality. They could have been a lot better.
Completely agree. And I think that maybe the fear going into the second one with 11 players was that, we've got to do so much better than that first penalty. And then you've got the added pressure, and it's just like, it was just going to be the catalyst for that. Chelsea were absolutely electric. I think we spent a lot of time, obviously, talking about that initial red card and our thoughts on it. But actually, the rest of the team really pulled together. They could have put their heads down at that point, but they still went out for the win after the 11th minute. You've got 80 minutes to hold on, and you end up, in those 80 minutes getting 2 goals. And I have to say, I think I tweeted about it. Fran Kirby, she literally, at one point, you could see her momentum just change. She went from looking for a pass to being like, oh, screw this, I'm doing it myself. And she just ran through players.
That's how she scored. She essentially just ran through half of the Atletico Madrid team, took a shot, it hit the post, somehow ended up back at Sam Kerr's feet eventually, who crossed it into Kirby, and Kirby finished it that second time. She just really took control.
She created that and finished
Created it. Class, veteran, incredible determination, discipline, everything Emma Hayes said. Good on her.
Absolutely amazing. And you know what? Chelsea fans will be really thinking from that game, it's one of those games in a Champions League season which carries you momentum wise over the finish line. It's one of those results where it was like to go down to 10, to win the game 2-0, to save 2 penalties. It was just like people talk about those Champions League nights, and it was one of those ones for me that will go down in Women's Champions League history. In other results, we saw expected outcomes, let's be honest. Barcelona, Man City, Wolfsburg, Bayern and Lyon all comfortably won their first leg fixtures. And there was a 2-2 draw in the first leg of the game between Rosengard and St. Pölten. So that second leg should be a cracker. But this week's going to be amazing, and I'll hand over to Sarah to tell us why.
This week is, like Helen just said, going to be amazing with all those second legs playing on the 10th and the 11th of March. So book your calendars, everybody. That's Wednesday and Thursday this week. Plus that big Lyon fixture against PSG, which we already highlighted, but we can't help but highlight one more time. Even though it's not Champions League, that's happening this week. Another quick point, PSG had a COVID-related delay in their first leg Champions League fixture against Sparta Praha, which means the first leg is being played on Tuesday the 9th, and the second isn't being played until the 17th of March. So that means that they'll have a lovely, juicy break in between the 9th and the Lyon game, which could potentially make a difference. Moving into another league that we are very excited to get started. The NWSL starts in April, but before it officially kicks off, there have been some friendlies that are happening. These are all closed-door friendlies, so they're not being aired or streamed for any of us to see, but we do get a little peek on Instagram that they're happening. So teams are really getting rolling, rosters are being finalized, and April's going to come sooner than we think it is, and so I'm really excited. We'll probably do an episode to highlight or preview the Challenge Cup before it begins. Everybody, don't forget the NWSL is not starting with their regular league. We'll start with Challenge Cup Round 2 because it was so fun last time. And then the regular league will kick back off in the fall.
All I would say on that is that seeing all the friendlies happening, I don't know about you, but it's just really getting me buzzed for it. Like, it's actually really hyping me.
I'm really excited because the NWSL, frankly, is my favorite league to watch, and I'm just so pumped to see it back in action.
Let us know on socials what you think of our team of the week over at The WSL Show.
At The WSL Show.
And that's on Instagram and Twitter.
And don't forget to check out Total Football Analysis. You heard that code in the advertisement, WOSO10, so go on and check it out.
It's so cool. We've already got people that are going through and using that discount code to get €10 for the entire year worth of content. Unbelievable.
Super exciting. We had somebody DM us on Twitter, by the way. She couldn't get her code to work. Turns out she was just typing it wrong. So if you have any trouble, DM us.
Yeah.
We'll help you out. There shouldn't be any trouble. Obviously, that was just like a little typo, but reach out. Everybody we've heard from is loving it. So really excited. We want to hear what you think.
Yeah, I've been Helen.
I've been Sarah.
We're the Women's Soccer Show. Bye.
Bye.